All right, so I'm here with Chelsea Staley, and she's here to come and check up on Mr. Slate over here and see how he's doing. And she's a friend of Heart of Phoenix Horse Rescue out of West Virginia, the rescue that Slate came from. And before we get started, I'm going to kind of walk through what we've been working on with Slate, which is really exciting to see his progress. You came, I think it was like a couple weeks ago when Tania and Susanna and the team dropped him off. Tell me a little bit about, if you recall, like kind of what that looked like. Tell us a little bit about that.
First of all, I watched the videos of him before I got here. I just needed to see like who I was going to deal with, right? And I'm like, this animal sounds like a dragon, right? And then I think your kids were calling him the dragon. Is that right?
Right.
So I love him because he's, of course, a little scary to me. I also love that I don't have to go in there with him, so kudos to you. But he just looks a lot looser today, right?
Sure.
We still haven't groomed him, I see. He's a beautiful horse. I think we decided, right, that he is maybe smarter than his own good.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, he is a smart pony. And, so far, what we've worked on with him is, at first, I literally used, Kylan was joking, he's like, you're using a 10-foot pole. And I said, no, this is a 20-foot pole, right? Like a big old 20-foot pole, piece of PVC. In fact, you can see the PVC laying over there.
Potato,
right?
whatever, right?
Starting to touch him with it and get him used to touch from a distance, because he would snap at you, he'd charge, he'd turn and kick, he'd come after you, especially if he felt cornered, right? So with that 20-foot pole, it gave me the ability to, from a safer distance, just apply pressure, and he could charge, he could kick, but the pressure stays there.
Right.
And so he learns, oh, this pressure isn't going to hurt me, right? But it also, I kind of work backwards with stuff, because instead of kind of the old school way where a lot of people, I'm sure, who are going to be watching this content are like, oh my God, I would have roped this horse already or haltered him or whatever. And that's kind of an old school approach of, roping them and throwing them down, and it's rough and, it's traumatic for the horse and that kind of thing. But we like to move slowly. Short sessions, usually the sessions have been anywhere from, I think the shortest one is maybe 20 minutes, the longest one has been about an hour. So not very long sessions, but we want to gradually build his confidence.
Sure.
So then we introduce him to the rope, where I would kind of throw like the line of a rope where I could have both ends and kind of get him yielding to pressure. And he's phenomenal with that. He really picked up on that really quickly. And then I introduced him to the steady stick. So again, like I went from a 20-foot pole to like a 3.5-foot pole to today, the focus is just really getting him okay with touch. And so really getting in there and touching him. I touched him, I think, on either day 1 or day 2, but that's not my focus. My focus is getting him comfortable, right? So if I can't even right now with like all of the activity, he's hanging way out over there on the rail. He's gotten better where he comes in and he'll stay in here when you come and go. But this is so good with him because there's a bunch of us here. And so he's like, I'm going to stay over here. There's a lot of people. But today, we're going to continue work all at liberty. I've done some kind of things to help keep myself safe. So there's a little half wall here, and I'll show you how I use that so that I can interact with him from over the wall without putting myself in harm's way. And that's the main thing. Like there's two main focuses at Steady Horse when we work with horses. One is we got to keep our horses safe and work with them in a way that gradually builds their confidence and progress, right? But the other part is you have to keep yourself safe. A lot of people end up getting hurt by horses needlessly,
right?
Because you're just doing too much, way too soon, too fast. The horse isn't ready for it. If you take your time, it's more meaningful. The horse has better retention,
right?
And everyone can be safer for it.
So would you say, so I come from the dog and cat, from sheltering world, right?
Sure.
And so I always say that keeping yourself safe keeps a dog safe, right?
100%.
Because if you push a dog too far and make a dog make a bad decision, you're going to have to make a bad decision on the dog, essentially,
100%.
right? Is this the same is true for horses, essentially? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we've talked a lot about this during the filming process while we've been documenting this. So I actually haven't worked with Slate a whole lot because we're always coordinating when Kylan can come out and we can film together so that the whole process can be documented. So we were just going back and forth whether this was day 4 or you said day 3? Day 4 or day 5? I can't, day 4 or 5. I think it's 5. Kylan says it's 4. We'll see. But in the process, we've been talking about the fact that there's certain times where we have to give up progress in order to be safe.
Yes.
It's like, you know, even if this means that I lose a little bit of ground, I much rather stay safe, and maybe it takes 2-3 times as long.
Sure.
Because, you know, as a person who, you know, if you take care of your horses, your dogs, or whatever, like, you are their primary provider.
Right.
And if you're down, then they're down, right? So, all right.
sure.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go in there with him, and I'll kind of walk you through what I'm working on. And then, of course, along the way, any questions you have, let me know.
I mean, he does look way more comfortable than he did just, you know, a couple weeks ago.
He's more chill.
He just looks less on alert.
He really is. And what I'm going to do today, too, is, you know, last session I talked a lot about kind of just putting a little bit more pressure on him and letting him deal with things, because at this point he knows that I'm not going to hurt him. He knows I'm not a threat for 100%. And so we've had some really good interactions, and so it's like now I want to be able to go in there and connect with him quickly. And there's kind of a way that some people, you'll see in the horse world, people will say this all the time. They'll say, oh, this horse knows better, and then that gives them license to do whatever mean thing to the horse or whatever. But that horse doesn't really know better.
Sure.
But we've spent a lot of time building foundation where at least he knows that I'm safe. You know, I've never given him any reason to think that he has anything to worry about. And so these sessions, I'm really just kind of going right in and communicating exactly what I want and getting him into the position that I want him to be in. So what I'm going to do is I want to get him up in this where he walks in here willingly. I'm going to move this hay bag here so it's out of his way.
Do you want me to move so I'm not?
You'll be fine there. That's fine. And so the idea here is I've taught him that when I pick up my hand, I want him to come forward into that pressure, okay? So when I pick that hand up, when he comes forward, I lower my hand to take the pressure off and let him know, good boy, that he's made a good decision. My goal is to get him into this corner, which we've been working on. So I add some pressure with my stick just to push him that direction. Good boy, good boy. And when he comes forward for me, I'll back off. Good. I'm going to put a little bit more pressure here. Good boy. And you'll see, I like to take a lot of big, deep breaths. Let him know he's made a good boy, made a good decision. Yes, what a pony. Yes, sir. Good. And again. Good boy.
How brave.
What a pony. Yes, sir. And he's being so much more polite with the way that he interacts with me. He used to kind of pin his ears back and root his nose, like, don't come any further, I'm gonna come get you. And if he does, you know, interact that way, then I'll kind of just push him towards the rail and say, no, sir, you gotta be a gentleman, right? So we have that expectation. Good boy. I'm gonna ask for some more.
I also love that he doesn't react to when you're talking with your hands, right? He's not negatively reacting. Yeah, you can just kind of have natural body language. He's not reacting.
100%. And that's a big part too of just teaching him how to come into the hand. Again, so it prepares him for touch, right? You know, a lot of horses recoil.
Right.
He's less likely to, because that's a cue that I've taught him to, hey, when you see this hand, the pressure only goes away when you come forward. Good boy. And I want him to get all the way where he's sticking his head out here. What a gentleman. Good boy.
Good job, bud.
So I'm going to give him just a second there, take a deep breath, let him know he's made a good decision. He's being a gentleman. He's not pinning his ears back at me. You know, a couple weeks ago, there's no way I'd be standing this close to him, you know, because he'd be coming after you. He'd feel threatened, that kind of thing. So good boy. What a gentleman. All right. So now what I'm going to do is anytime he leaves, I'm just going to go back and add pressure. And I'm going to go ahead and just touch him with the string and stick and let him know that there's nothing to worry about here. And you can see how I'm really putting like a considerable amount of pressure, even when he's backing up and acting nervous. My God, it's no big deal. Like, nothing to worry about.
But it's also not physical pressure. It's mental pressure to him.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Nothing that's going to hurt him or make him uncomfortable.
It's like a feather of physical pressure, right?
Right. Exactly. So I want him to go all the way up here, there, and then the pressure goes away. Good boy. And I'm going to go right back to it again. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. And again, my goal today is going to be, good boy. Yes, sir. All the way up to the rail, though. All the way there. There you go. What a gentleman. My goal today is to be able to touch him with my steady stick, but I also want to be able to put a hand directly on him. So I'm gonna go right back to just applying pressure and letting him know there's nothing to worry about. Good boy, what a gentleman. Good.
Smarty pants.
Good. Hit the barn, no big deal, you're all right, bud. So I don't know about that, so back to pressure here. Again, when he comes in, I'm always gonna lower that hand. There we go, good boy.
And so his story was he came through a sale pin, correct?
Yes.
And so how is that like traumatizing to them? Like what would you think is, I know we don't know much of his history.
Right, yeah, no way to know for sure, but he came through a kill pin originally. He was unhandleable then. And he's just been herded like cattle, right?
Sure.
So, and I understand that he was with a trainer that was trying to work with him, but ended up surrendering him because they weren't able to touch him. He was dangerous. He was coming after people. Good boy. What a gentleman. I'm gonna get him a little closer. Good boy. And so when you have a horse with an uncertain past, when you have a horse that's, you know, you really don't know, right? But you can tell. So I know for certain he's probably bitten people. He's probably kicked people. He's brilliant. And he knows that works. And so that's why, you know, for the first several sessions, he was coming after you because he was used of being able to come after people and they back off. Like that's what people are going to do,
That's
right?
reinforcement.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
He got what he wanted.
So he's like, oh, wait a minute. So now what he's learning is that, and I'm so proud of how he's doing. Eventually you'll be able to see kind of some of the videos from before and how he'd be pinning and lunging and really trying to get you to go away from him. But eventually over time, when a horse has, just like negative interactions create bad habits or reinforce bad things, good interactions create positive habits and trust. And so he's learning, like even with this, like when I apply pressure, even if he's worried about it, nothing's gonna happen. He's not gonna get hurt, right? So I imagine, you know, just being handled by cattle, because unfortunately, when you're handling cattle or handling something, and most people, he's a stallion, he's 10 years old, he's big, most people are gonna be afraid of him, you know? And so a lot of times, unfortunately, when people are afraid of things, they become aggressive, right? So who knows who did what to him.
Sure.
And so maybe he has every right in the world to come after people, you know, as a defense mechanism because of his past. We'll never know, but you can tell for sure that he hasn't had great interactions with humans.
Yeah.
And the reason why I know that with certainty is because he is so kind to other horses. He is such a sweetheart. Even
he has a buddy.
Yeah, he's got a buddy. You saw them grooming each other over the fence. He's a stallion. I can lead mares through here, and he's not losing his mind. He's such a gentleman. And so his issue isn't with horses, it's with people. And he's probably had a bad interaction there.
There's some parallels there, right, to human mental health.
Right, 1,000%.
Definitely, there's a lot of parallels when I hear you speak like that.
And you know, that's our interaction with horses is just a relationship, right? And it's just like any other relationship, whether it's with ourselves or others. And it's so powerful when we stop and kind of think about where he's coming from and his perspective. It really helps us to help him the most efficient way.
And take a breath.
Absolutely.
Right? And encourage him to take a breath. For
sure. Okay, so now I'm going to go back. He's standing like a gentleman. I'm going to apply more pressure. By applying more pressure, I'm going to come in here with my steady stick, and I want to make sure that if he moves, that I stay with him. I'm going to touch him with it. Good boy. What a gentleman. And see how, like, when he kind of snorted a little bit, I didn't recoil or back off. I'm just going to stick with it. And I really want him to relax, right? So last session, we ended up, I touched him with the steady stick, and I was scratching him here on the neck. And this is new to him, right? I want him to learn that, you know, this is actually a good thing.
We like these pets on the neck, right?
Right. And I'm going to come over towards his back here. And the goal here is I want that nose to kind of start to tip towards me. But I want to rub and love on him here enough that when I take away the pressure, he's looking for it, okay? So it's like, wait a minute, where'd that go?
I'm sure everyone who watches your videos is very like horse experienced, but can I just point out that while you're doing that, you still have that wall to get behind just in case he,
1,000%.
does
yes, yeah.
change his mind quickly, right?
Right, because he
Safety first.
In a split second, it's safety and it's also having the ability to maintain position so that, because if he came after me and I didn't have something to protect myself where I could just duck and still apply pressure, then he would learn that coming after me gets him out of the pressure, right? So it really helps, yes, with safety, and also just reinforcing that sticking with me is a good thing, not a bad thing.
So I don't know if you want to include this or if Tania will want something like this, but like I think one of the things that was so interesting for me to hear Tania talk about was, you know, this is more horse than probably would be continued to be invested in rescue, right?
Correct.
Because he is a lot to manage and probably will ultimately be more than the average horse handler will ever be able to own, right? But his size is a good size. He also is striking.
Yep.
So not to sound, you know, whatever, but he ultimately will be more attractive to a broader set of horse adopters, right?
100%.
But this is not your average rescue, and this is not Heart of Phoenix's bread and butter, if you will. Like, they don't make a habit of saving horses like this, and he would not have a chance if not for you, Noah. So I don't want people to watch this and think like this is normal horse rescue, and like you don't have to save horses this difficult. Like, Noah is really enabling this to happen, which is absolutely incredible, and thank you, but this is really above and beyond. And so I think also knowing your limitations is not the wrong thing either, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah, 1,000%. That's a good point to make. As far as like difficulty level too, because people tell me all the time, oh, you know, it's a tough horse. This is a really challenging case. And I used to work, like that is what I did for a living, is I worked with problem horses. So some of the worst horses that had killed people, horses that had seriously injured people, and people would bring all those horses to me. And so when they said, this guy's really tough, he's really, I'm like, whatever, just, just bring him. He's definitely, and I worked with thousands of horses. This guy's like top 50 for sure. Like for sure, like in that space of like, most people would end up being pretty seriously hurt with this horse for sure.
I mean, I speak from, of course, like animal sheltering, so dogs and cats, right? And the shelters right now are full of wonderful adoptable dogs that are so friendly and so placeable and good with other dogs and good with kids and good with cats and all the things, right? And there are, you know, a subset of people who want to save the most challenging of everything, right? Rescuers, hearts bleed. We just do. It's who we are. You know, we all bleed for the underdog, whether it be a horse, whatever the species is, right? And so I think, you know, there are absolutely those middle of the road horses that could absolutely be saved that are not as extreme as this guy, but you were saving this guy. And that's, I thank you so much. It's wonderful. But also, I just want to make the point that this is a tough guy.
1,000%.
And there's a lot on his side as to why we're investing in this one. His size, his look.
Yeah. And then you mentioned,
your yes. Like because you said yes, there's a yes here. You know, he has a chance.
Sure. Yeah, and you know, you talk about his size and his look, his color. You know, people like gray horses. His size, that means he can have a wider variety of people who can ride him. You know, like I'm a big guy, so I can't ride little tiny horses. Right. You know, I got to ride big horses, right? And so, 100%. He has a fair shake at, I don't know if I'll say a fair shake, but he has a better likelihood, of having a success. And he, no question in my mind, this is going to make somebody an incredible horse once he's worked with and he's adopted out. Like, I don't even know, like I'm going to probably have to be bidding on this horse myself.
And he's physically sound, right? A lot of horses that come through rescue have some level of physical challenge
1,000%.
that you also have to rehabilitate in addition to like their mental or their handleability, right?
Yeah, and being 10 years old and being as sound as he is pretty incredible. All right, but
tough cookie.
I'm going to put some more pressure on him. I'm going to take pressure away when he walks into the pressure. You see him pinning his ears back a little bit right there? So I'm going to maintain pressure, but I have to be careful when he pins those ears back, because that's a warning sign to say, hey, I might come after you. I might fire and kick at you. And so I'm still going to ask for forward. That's not going to get me to stop the forward, but I am going to have an expectation for him to be a gentleman. And so I might just push that front end away like that a little bit. So he's back to the rail and not just, you know, thumbing his nose at me, right? To let him know that, you know, you got to be a gentleman, right? I'm going to wait till he stops pinning those ears. So I like that I'm getting forward there, but I want kind of his facial expression. I want him to soften. I want him to be polite to let him know that that also is a part of
the ears to relax.
Yeah,
right?
to get him out of the pressure there. All right, so I'm gonna go back to touch again with the steady stick. And people ask me all the time about you know, training sticks. People call them whips. You know, are you whipping the horse? It's like, no, like this, like even specifically this training tool, it's got rubber fittings on there. It's designed where it's hollow on the inside. If I apply pressure, like for example, if he came after me after apply pressure, it's not like a traditional whip where it's going to leave a whelp on him. It's going to sting him. It's not meant to hurt him, but to give clarity and guide and direct him here. So I'm
and where you haven't had a chance to groom him yet, it looks like he could use some sloughing off right there anyway. It's got to feel good, right?
Absolutely. Good boy. Good. So you see how he's thumbing that nose? Like, no, come forward and be polite. There, that's better.
Oh,
Good.
so handsome.
What a gentleman. So I'm gonna come right back again, add pressure with the stick, go to rubbing. And so this time, I'm gonna wait for him to relax and kind of lean into this a little bit, okay? And so there, he's starting to kind of soften into it. I don't know if you can see him kind of shifting his weight towards me a little bit. It's like, oh, that feels good, right? There we go.
There you go.
Now take that away, and you see how he's starting to look this way for it? He says, wait a minute, why did you stop that? No, okay. I said, oh, okay, I'll come back in here. Let me give you a rub here, bud. Let me give you a rub. And so this is what I'm looking for, right? Where he's starting to learn that this is a good thing, that there's nothing to worry about. Something that I'll do in these situations too is I am gonna inadvertently just kind of hit the wall, make some racket where he might kind of, oh, I'm gonna reward him for that. That was really good. Where he might kind of back away from it because I want him to know that there's nothing to worry about there, right? Because I might be rubbing him and accidentally clank something or hit something, and well, there's nothing to worry about here, bud. Okay, so back. I really like the spot where the neck ties into the shoulder. Horses really like that spot, and there's a natural crease right there. I'm gonna take a nice big deep breath. And as long as it takes, I'm just gonna sit here for a moment until again, he just kind of begins to relax from this. Oh, he's licking and chewing. I'll take some pressure off of him, let him know he made a good decision. He's looking for it. I love that. Very, very cool. There's going to be a truck passing by here in a second, which is also so cool because we also have a construction company. And so, and the equipment yard is over there. So all day long, the guys are coming back and forth, grabbing equipment.
That's life,
Trash trucks come, tractors, you know, all kinds of stuff. And so he's getting used to that type of exposure where, you know, he'll hear the diesel engines and the racket and the bang, bang, bang. And he's getting really comfortable with that. So he's doing great. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna touch him again here, and I'm gonna go closer to his face, okay? So like, you know, and the neck back is a good place to start, like neck shoulder area really. But as you go closer to a horse's face, that's when they can tend to be more defensive. In the past, when I put pressure up here, that's when he snapped out, right? Where he's gone after either the stick or my hand. And so what I wanna do here is, again, because my goal today is to really get him used to touch, like with my hand, okay? But I want to make sure before I touch him with my hand that I can touch him comfortably with the stick and he's not overreacting or snapping at me there, right? And so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to start holding my stick further down and closer. Good boy.
I have two questions.
Go for it, please.
Let me ask them before I forget what they are. Number one, we talked about how confident he is and how often the challenge with horses is that they are scared. So what's the difference in training? What are the benefits to each, right? Or challenges to each, and like, how do you approach those differently? Okay.
So when it comes to confidence, because he is confident in a way where it comes to aggression, right? Like what that means is he's not afraid to come after me, right? Most horses, you know, their primary mechanism is flight, right?
He's fight.
And he's more fight, right? Like the moment he feels even remotely cornered, he'll come after you, okay? So that's where you're gonna find with a horse that's more confident. They tend to go to that fight response quicker. And so that's why there's so much balance. Like even when I am asking him to draw, and it's like, but hey, keep your nose over there, you know, and you can tell what a horse is thinking, right? They kind of wear their emotions on their sleeve. You can tell he's like, screw you, buddy. Keep asking me, and I'm gonna nail you. But then there's a difference to when he's soft, right? When he's looking for me and he tips that nose in politely and those ears aren't pinned back. That I'm encouraging. So it's got to be that that balance of drawing him in, but also having an expectation to say, until you prove yourself, you can't just come into my space because I can't trust you. I don't want you to, go after me and get me. Does that make sense?
Yep. And so my second question is, in dog training, right? We so often use treats. And so you're just using a release of pressure, right?
Yes.
Why no treats?
That's a really good question. I get a lot of flack for that because I call the type of training that I do I call it positive reinforcement.
Sure.
And it's semantics, people all over the internet.
Fear-free, it's whatever you want to call it, right?
Exactly. And so, but a lot of people they consider like if you give a treat, that's a form of positive reinforcement, right? I'm not huge on treats with horses. I will in some instances, not with this horse, okay? So if I have a Mustang off the range, never seen people, I'm gonna bribe him to like me.
Yes, sure.
I might put a treat out to get that horse to start to come in my direction and know that I'm safe. With a horse that's already, willing to come and nail you, he does not need a treat, right? So the reason why I call what I do positive reinforcement is because the positive is that release of pressure. That is a reward for a horse because horses constantly feel pressure, right? That's how they've survived, up until this time. Is they're so in tune and so sensitive that they can take off, before the danger comes, they know it's coming and they're out of there, right? It's like, nah, not me, I'm out of here, right? Yes. And so horses, they're like, nah, y'all can get eaten, I'm gone.
Right.
So with this guy, when I apply pressure, he's ultra aware of it. And if I take that pressure away, to him, that is, oh my God, thank you so much.
Get out of my face, right?
And so that is the positive reinforcement. That is what we're reinforcing, is that removal of pressure as opposed to, cookie. Would I make more progress with this horse if I were putting cookies in his mouth? Absolutely. I'd probably have a halter on him by now and leading him around, but he'd also be penny-eared, right? You'll see a lot of people in the horse world train with treats. And again, there are times when I will train with treats, but it's, in my opinion, it's appropriate. It's not excessive. But there's a lot of people who train with treats and it's a shortcut.
Sure.
And so if you don't have that treat, you're not going to get the response that you're looking for. And then you get these horses, and you see this all the time. If you've ever seen Liberty performers with some of the most incredible Liberty performers in the world, what do those horses look like? They're pinned back. They're looking for that treat. They don't look happy because they kind of feel entitled and they're looking and they want, the next handout from you and that kind of thing. And what I want with my horses, I want to have an understanding with my horses where they genuinely want to be with me.
Absolutely, yes, that makes total sense. A little robotic, right?
Yeah,
They're just a little robotic.
Exactly. Yeah. So we talk a lot about what we call leading with love.
Oh, I love that.
Because there's a lot of people who see a horse like this and see some of the footage of him coming after me, and they'll say, "Oh, I would have gone after that horse with a 2x4. I would have shown that horse." It's first of all, it's like
you can, but you're not going to get very far.
Right. Yeah. No, not at all.
You shouldn't. First of all, that's probably illegal, depending on where you live.
No, 1,000%. And I'm a really nice guy, but try to come after a horse with a 2x4 in front of me. See what happens.
Same.
And so you see these people who really think, and again, it's out of fear. They don't know how to handle a horse like this. And so our gut instinct out of self-preservation is I don't understand you. And we see it with people too. The things or the people that we don't understand, we come at them with ugliness, nastiness, because we just don't get them.
Well, I always think some of the best horsemen are the smallest women I know, right? And so it has nothing to do with physical pressure, right? Yep. It just has to do with your energy and your own confidence, I think, and your, knowledge of how to handle a horse. So
1,000%.
So again, in animal welfare and in dog training, there's a whole conversation about fear-free and about positive reinforcement only and about not using adversives. And I know that's semantics, and you can be the most gentle parent or dog trainer or whatever you want to be, but the word no still has to exist, right? So is that happening in horse training? And what's your approach to that, or tell us about that?
Yeah, so 1,000%, right? So it's interesting because not telling a horse no, not giving them clear boundaries, not setting expectations can be just as dangerous as the person who's putting way too much pressure and being unfair to a horse. Because a horse that's never told no, that's never given clarity, that's always got treats shoved, like that's a horse that's gonna buck, kick, bite, nail people.
Just like a teenager.
Yeah, exactly, right? They can be so dangerous because like nothing's off limits to them, right?
To themselves and others,
exactly.
Literally.
Yes, to themselves and others. And so those are the horses where people bring in a horse and they're like, oh, such and such has been such a good horse for so long. But then just out of nowhere, he just started bucking and he threw me and drug me down the trail. Well, it didn't come out of nowhere. Horses are so perceptive. And what happens is we're just not attentive to what they need. And we treat horses like humans. And so even with human interactions, sometimes we're so afraid to give people clarity, tell them what we think, to be direct with them, maybe not wanting to hurt their feelings or whatever, but ultimately that's what you end up doing, right? Horses are the same way. They're like, and I tell people this all the time, if a horse could talk, I think every horse would just be like, just tell me what you want and I'll do it. Because they are herd animals. They want to go with the flow, right? If you open up a gate, 100 times out of 100, that horse is going to go out that gate, right? And so, there have to be boundaries where you give them clarity so that you're giving them the direction that they need so that they know what you're asking of them. But if it's always, oh, it's okay, I'm not going to back my horse up, my horse can push me, my horse can lean on me, well, then that's what we're teaching them.
Sure.
And so you can't be surprised when out of nowhere he ends up biting, the 4-year-old grandkid in the barn aisle and it's, oh, God, he's never done that before. I don't know. Well, it built up to that.
So leading with love does not mean entitlement. And love includes boundaries in all definitions of the word.
Yeah, 1,000%. I like your example with kids. Like, you have to lead with love with your kids, right? You want the best for them, but it's like, hey, don't touch the stove. Like,
right.
You're not going to touch that stove,
Because you love your kids, you don't get them a car when they're 5. Right. Like there are things there are boundaries.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to go right back to putting pressure over his face again. So stick comes up high. Good boy. And the only thing that gets him out of that pressure is when he comes forward into it. So I'm going to help him out here by there, good boy. And what I was kind of getting into here is that, like, when I apply pressure, good boy, and I take it away, like I'm really, really pleased with that. I'm going to go ahead and give him a rub. Good boy. Good now I want to kind of get closer with my stick, okay? So that my hand is further down the stick so that he's close to and used to my reach. Good boy. What a gentleman. Good boy, yeah. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rub him back here again where he's kind of learned to like that and knows what that looks like. I'm going to add pressure right here. And again, like right now, I am in a very vulnerable place where if he wanted to, he could come at me, right, and charge. And so I still have to be careful, okay? So I'm going to keep this pressure up. Even though he got away from me, like I still have my pressure up so that it's clear to him that the only thing that gets him out of this pressure is coming forward, and he's got to be a gentleman. And so I'm going to have the expectation all the way back to the wall, back to the wall. Good boy. There. I'll take the pressure away because he made a good decision, but I'll bring it right back up here. Good boy. Good boy. Pressure away, good boy. And then right back to it. He didn't back up. Good, he's kind of softening in my direction. I'll take the pressure away there. Let him know he made a good decision.
Good job.
Right back to it again.
Also, the tone of your voice never changes. The volume never changes. Like you're very predictable, I think, for him,
Yeah, and that is important, to just staying where we're not being reactive to him, right? Where we're not getting after him or shh, maybe be very quiet, just kind of being very even keel. Yes, that predictability helps him know, good boy, that he can trust me. So he's backing away there. I'm going to keep this pressure until there. Good boy. And so you can see, like, nothing that I'm doing is like there's no tricks or anything. It's just being consistent.
Yeah.
Being very clear with my expectation. Good boy. Yes, sir. What a gentleman.
But also very respectful.
Good pony. Good pony. 1,000%. You know, there's kind of, you know, in the horse world, there's a big culture of forcing your horse to respect you.
Sure.
And so then, you know, it's like, it almost gives you, it's like, oh, well, that horse was disrespectful. Now I can beat the tar out of him, right? And it's kind of silly, but I mean, it's like a lot of people, you know, they might not say it that way, but a lot of people kind of take that approach with horses. It goes back to, the, oh, you know better. So now I can whoop on you or this or that. And just like with people, like, you have to earn respect, right? You have to show somebody respect before. What a gentleman. Yes, sir. Yeah. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in even closer, and I'm going to use my stick kind of as a boundary to help keep me safe if he does kind of snap and want to come after me. Good boy. What a gentleman. I'm going to put my hand up here, which again, because I've taught him, good boy, to fall into that hand and come forward, he's actually doing a much better job of not being worried about my hand, right? Because he's been used to, okay, when the hand is up, let me fall into the hand instead of recoiling away from it. So I'm gonna give him a rub here.
So brave.
Hand up. Good boy. Good. Now I gotta get him a little closer so I can actually touch him, so I'm gonna push him back into the wall. There,
And
good boy.
have you touched him before?
Yes, I've touched him before. The first touch I did with him, this is a different kind of touch though from the touch before. So the first touch I did with him was just putting my hand up there, and he actually touched me first, right? So again, that's going to like the confident type of horse, you know, and he was like more like rooting that nose, like get that away from me, right?
Yeah.
But he touched
The
me
dragon.
and then he'd kind of, yeah, exactly. And so I just wanted to see where we were, and so like that was like day 1 or day 2, getting that. But now this is a different kind of touch that I'm looking for. It's not just touching him to see if I can touch him. It's like getting him to accept it, being able to rub and love on him and get him comfortable with that.
Sure.
All right, so here we go. I'm gonna go right back over to it. Nice big deep breath. I'm gonna get close. I'm gonna be right in his space here. Again, this is a place where he tends to wanna snap at me and push me away. Good boy, what a gentleman. Good boy. Awesome. So I'm gonna use my stick to help protect me so that when I apply pressure, if he does try to nail me, I've got something against me so I can push him away from me, right? And that's like half of it, is I have to anticipate that. My energy has to be such that I'm relaxed and I'm not making him nervous, but I have to be prepared for him getting nasty and being ugly.
It's like defensive driving.
Exactly. Good boy. What a gentleman. Good boy. Good. And so you see how like even when he recoils, I can't recoil. I gotta stay with him.
And you're not pushing with your left arm. It's just laying there.
Just holding it there.
Just holding
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. Yes. And so I probably could touch him right now. I'm not. He's leaning into me. I really like that. Oh, he touched me. Good boy. What a gentleman. Let's see if he tries that again. I really like that. He chose that on his own. Just leaning in again. He's like just kind of barely touching me with his mane there. Great. I'm gonna go ahead and back off. Let him know he made a good decision. Good boy.
Smarty pants.
So this time I'm gonna come in without the stick because he showed me that I can trust him. I still don't 100% trust him, but he showed me some things there. So I just want to kind of reciprocate that.
Sure.
And come in here. Good boy. Okay. I'm gonna put my stick back up. I'm gonna rub him up here. What a gentleman. Yeah, handling that very well. And I'm gonna come in here. Good boy. This time, if I can reach him, I'm gonna try and touch him. There, I'm touching him right now.
Awesome.
He walked right into that. I'm gonna back away, let him know he made a really good decision. Oh yeah, okay.
Where did it go?
We'll come back here, bud. There, good boy. So I like that part where that neck ties into the shoulder. I really wanna just like gently rub on him there so it starts to feel good. And he really likes that. So that's gonna be different from just a stick rubbing him when I'm rubbing him with my hand. I really want him to appreciate that. There you go, good boy. Good boy. And so now I'm gonna remove my stick. Good boy. There, I like there.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Good boy. Yes, sir.
Big brave
Oh, what
buddy.
a gentleman.
Yeah.
Wow, yes. What a gentleman. Good boy. I like that. He stepped into it there. Good. And so anytime that I start to go further, right now I'm just staying at the neck and shoulder. I'm going to wait for him to soften into that. But when I go further, I'm going to put my stick back up again just for protection. Good boy.
And so your typical training program, you require anyone booking you for a training to do 6 months.
Yeah, so...
And so anyone that sees how long this is taking today, right?
Right.
You could go faster.
Yeah.
But that could also work negatively, right? You could really backtrack that way.
1,000%.
And you know, this guy is tough, and so every minute that you're spending right now is worth it, of course, right? So explain to us why you're going this slow, and I think what the long-term effects of
it's all
taking
about,
your time.
Yeah, it's all about foundation, right? Like really building the steps so that he has certainty. So a lot of horses do okay, but it's kind of the old school method of force that horse, show that horse, drive that horse. You know, people have been breaking horses for hundreds of years where, you know, you just ride them out, sack them out. And horses, for the most part, they're fine. They do okay, right? But then you also have like that chance where something goes wrong. And what typically happens is, because the old way of working with horses was domineering them, is that horse does okay with you until something scarier than you comes along. And we don't see it like that, but that's how they see it.
Sure.
It's like, you're the master, you're the boss, I'll do what you say out of fear or out of complicity or whatever. But then, like, you know, you're going down the trail and there's a rustling in the bushes and they think that's a tiger, and they're like, well, whatever. Like, forget what you have to say, I'm out of here. And so what happens is it only works for as long as you can be alert and attentive enough to continue to exert that dominance over that horse. When we talk about building a foundation, we want it to be meaningful. So it's like him touching me first, him leaning into the touch and choosing that. I don't know about you, but for me, like, I don't want anyone to tell me what to do. Right?
Well, I'm not sure what gave you that impression about me, and I think that that's Tania's MO as well. So
sure, yeah, I much rather, you know, find out for myself.
Yes.
Right, or make the initiation or whatever. And for horses, you know, horses are very curious. Like, if you again, if I left this gate, I can leave it shut, but if it's unlatched, he's gonna find his way out of here because he's curious. He's gonna investigate. He'll touch, and so that's what I want. Is like, I'll open the gate. I'll kind of set things up for him, but then I'll let him engage. And if he engages, it's more meaningful.
Sure.
It's like you know, Columbus discovering America. Oh, he discovered it, right?
Yeah.
It was always there, and so I want him to be able to discover things, and it means it has more meaning to him.
Also, I think it's worth the point that it's the 21st century and we don't need them to work for us anymore, right? I think horses are now, I mean, sure, people use them for sport and do some people use them for work? Yes, but we also have trucks and tractors and things that we didn't used to have. And we don't need to make them work immediately. Right now we have a little bit of time that is luxury, and horses are, you know, a fun thing to have and kind of a luxury for people.
Absolutely.
They're not a necessity anymore, you know?
Yeah, 1,000%. All right, bud, good job. So I'm gonna come in here again, this time with just a little bit more pressure. I'm just gonna come in here and rub him, see how he does. What a gentleman. Good boy, he comes into it, I take the pressure away. Instead of dancing around it there, it's just like, oh, I'm gonna put pressure on you, it's not gonna hurt you, nothing's gonna happen. Good boy.
And you're moving a little faster.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna come up over his face, put the stick there, and this time when I come in, hey bud, I'm gonna work my way up a little bit higher. And again, I got the stick there to help keep me safe. Hey bud. Yeah. So he's a little unsure of me being this close. So I'm gonna stick with him until he begins to relax on his own. I'm gonna step up just a little bit closer. There we go. Come up a little bit further. Good boy. So he's, oh, I like that. Good boy. Come up higher here. What a gentleman. Right up by his face.
Brave.
Good boy. Good boy. I'm going to step away and see if he leans into it. Good boy. Good. I'm going to come without the stick. I'm going to give him a rub here. Now, when those ears pin back, I got to be careful. So I have an open palm to say, hey, be a gentleman. And I want to wait for his expression to change here. So his ears are kind of pinned back a little bit. So I'm not doing anything else until he relaxes and gives me some type of indication that he's okay with this pressure. And these are the things what I mean where nothing comes out of nowhere, right?
Sure.
They're just things that there we go, good. They're things that we miss. And so if I had continued, he probably would have snapped at me there or done something ugly. Or,
And his ears went back again, so your hand goes back up.
I think he's just shaking a fly there, and I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna come get me. But again, you know, it's really about, good boy, what a gentleman, about staying with him,
Yeah.
you know, so that it doesn't reinforce the idea that when he comes after you or whatever, that he's, good boy. He's kind of lowering his head a little bit, softening his eye, soft blinks, I like that. Good boy. Give him a rub here. Let him know he made a good decision. Good boy. Yeah, just a few days ago, I would have been afraid that he'd bite my face off here. So I'm really happy with his decisions here. And they can, you know, I worked with a horse that had fractured a guy's skull because he just went right into the guy's head and, you know, clamped down like an apple and put a hole in his skull. And so, I mean, they're so powerful. And so it's just so important, going back to your question about taking your time, to really take your time. You mentioned that when we have horses in training, they're here for 6 months. Not only that, but also the owners come out and are required to work with the horses throughout the process. Good boy. What a gentleman. Good boy. So I like where we are here. The last thing I'm going to finish off with, and this is something that we've already done, and we also did it with the rope, where I'm kind of tossing the rope over his head, over his ears, because probably maybe next session or two, I will be working on putting a halter over him. And so I want him to be comfortable and okay with just pressure on either side of his face, with the rope kind of being over there and rubbing his face here, rubbing his ears, so that when I go to reach over there, I'm going to stay with him here. Good boy. I'm going to put my hand up, ask him to come into this pressure. He doesn't like that, but this is starting to prepare him for the halter, right? Because the crown of that halter is going to be going over the back of his ears. What a gentleman. Yes, sir. Yeah, bud. And so I want him to be comfortable and okay with that. Hook his ear here. I know. I'm being a terror, aren't I?
Also, if you get to like it, maybe somebody'd scratch those flats for you away.
Good boy. I'm going to come all the way down this side of his face here. Good boy.
It
what
probably
a gentleman.
tickles, bud.
What a gentleman. It's all right, bud. Good boy. Put pressure back over again.
How will you decide when it's time to get him gelded?
Once I can handle him safely, so I should be able to lead him. He should stand tied. I should be able to load and unload him out of the trailer. Once he has all those basic, ground skills, then I'll feel confident enough to go ahead and take him in. And
they won't come here?
And get him gelded. I'll probably take him in. It'll be good for him.
That'll be a good experience, right?
And then they just have like the whole setup and facility to have them in stocks and everything. And
where's the hospital?
It's like 10 miles from here. It's pretty close. Yeah. Yeah, and they do great work over there. So for people watching at home, usually Heart of Phoenix would have gelded a horse. All the horses, they're going to geld them. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, gelding a horse, basically castrating the horse. And because a lot of the horses that they work with are wild horses as well. And so they just don't want those horses promulgating and having horses all over the Appalachia, right? And so, and it's just good, it's best practice with horses to geld these guys. So they're not just making tons of horses everywhere that need to be taken care of, and horses are expensive to take care of, right?
But also turning your barn on its head, right? Having a stallion in your barn.
That's true, yeah.
And having some mares walking through can up the ante a little bit.
Absolutely. And so when they took him to get gelded, again, they, funneled him in, like cattle into a chute. They had him, they tried to sedate him, but they couldn't give him enough sedation safely. They had tapped out in the amount of sedation that they could safely give him in order to geld him. And so, and that's again, just nerves, anxiousness, that's going to counteract that sedation. And so they tapped out on what they could give him in order to geld him. So when we take him in, I want him to be as calm and relaxed as possible so that the sedation works, and that he can be as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, and that'll be good, real life training too.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to come right back over this side of his face, add some pressure here. My goal is to come all the way down without him walking off. I'm going to stay with him if he walks off. Stay with him. Now, if he turns his hip to me, I will put more pressure on him until he comes forward. But as long as he doesn't turn his hip to me, I just float with him, and this is pressure, right? Good boy. He knows exactly what to do here. What a gentleman, yeah. Like, I don't even have to pick up my hand to bring him here, which is good. And you can see he's a little ticked off with me. He says, we're doing so good, and then you asked for more. Oh, I know. Let's come forward. Come forward. Be a gentleman. Good. And I'm really happy with kind of bringing him past this frustration point here, because this gives us a really good place to end, where we are kind of just working through some stuff here, where he could decide to not want to have to deal with it and say this is enough, but he really is being a gentleman here. So good boy.
So smart.
I'm gonna stick with you. Good boy. Again, if that hip turns towards me, I'm gonna put some pressure on him. But he's doing a good job here, just kind of figuring this out. And my job is just to be patient and give him time to figure out what we're doing here. Because when we are haltering a horse, right? Like, I don't want him moving and going all over the place. I want him to be really comfortable with this type of pressure. Good boy. Yeah, good boy. All the way up there. All the way. Good boy. Good boy. I'm going to give him a rub for coming back here. Then I'm immediately going to go back to our goal here of coming over his ears. Good. And down his face without him leaving. Stick with him here. We're really close there. Good boy. And I'm really pushing him through this.
Noah, you make it look so easy.
Good boy. What a gentleman. Good boy. What a gentleman. Thank you, sir. And let's see. I think this time we'll get it. Let's see how we do here. I'm going to come right around here. Pressure over his ears. Good boy. Come right down his face. I'm going to stick with him. I accidentally kind of whacked him there. I'm going to stick with him here. And really what I'm doing now is it's preparation for this next session. When I work with him next and I do put a halter on him, this is going to help me out so much. Just having him there, all the way down. I know it's a lot, but there's pressure on both sides of you when I do that. So now he's kind of trapped. My string's kind of wrapped around his neck here, so he feels like he's got nowhere to go. Which is how it's going to feel when he has that halter on. So, good boy.
Brave decisions.
Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Put a lot of pressure on him here. Good. All the way up to the rail. Yes, sir. Good boy. What a gentleman. Yes, sir. You're all right, bud. You're okay. You're okay, bud. Come here. All right. You're doing good. You're doing all right. You're okay. Let's see if I can stick with him here. You see how I'm kind of tipping his nose away too? Like when he really kind of engages, I'll just kind of bump that nose away to say, nope, be a gentleman. Walk over politely.
So I've always heard the term, like, meet the horse's pressure, add 2 ounces, right? Is that?
So meet the horse's pressure, right? And the thing is, for me, I'm not going to increase any pressure.
Sure.
Unless I need to. So if he's trying, I'm not going to increase pressure. If he's challenging like this, and going back to the boundaries things, yes, I'll add a little bit of pressure.
Sure.
And maybe that's 2 ounces.
To me, 2 ounces is nothing compared to a horse's body. And so maybe I don't understand what the term means, right?
And so
yeah,
I think the idea is when people say that, it's like, and that's a really interesting thing, Chelsea, because people talk about the graduation of pressure, right? And that's traditionally how most people handle pressure with horses. So for example, if I'm asking a horse to back up, say I have the lead rope and I shake that rope, people say start with minimal pressure. If the horse doesn't respond to that, then go ahead and add more pressure, right? And if the horse doesn't, then add more pressure. And so you might start at a pressure of 1 and then
Sure.
a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5. You end up at maybe 10 and that horse is just standing there.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening with a horse like that is you actually end up desensitizing the horse to the pressure. It's like the frog, you're heating up.
Absolutely.
So for a lot of horses that works. For some horses, you have to use what's called adequate pressure. And so what that means is you just take an educated guess, right?
Sure.
Where and this is for like the more dull horses, like Tony, the big Clydesdale, it's just like, dum-de-dum. And so what that means is like, I might say, I think it's gonna take a pressure of like 5 to get a response. So I might start at a pressure of 5, right? Which is significant, but I get the response, he backs up. So I really wave that rope and he backs up immediately. I'm like, oh, that was good. So then maybe next time I start at like a 3 or 4, then I start to dial it down. So it's just a matter of kind of reading what that horse needs.
Meet the resistance and
Good boy. Go right to rubbing him here. Good boy. What a gentleman. Yes, sir. Good boy. Anytime he leaves the wall, I just want to be clear that being here by the wall by me, like that's a good place to be. Go right back to it here. Good boy. What a gentleman. Come down your face here.
top 50 toughest horses. You make it look pretty easy. So I just want to say that
Good
again.
boy.
Like top 50 toughest horses. This is,
Good
don't
boy.
do this at home, kids.
What a pony. Good. So that's a good place to end with him, which I really like that, we got him kind of wanting to shoot back again. And we said, no, come back up. He did a little kind of hike up with the leg, frustrating thing. We worked him through that. That's a really good place to end with him. And it sets me up so that next session, when I'm really putting the halter, introducing that to him, laying it over his face, I'll probably have the rope on him as well, just around him.
Sure.
He'll be comfortable with that, and he'll be okay with having pressure on one side of him while I'm on the other side. So I'm pleased with how he's doing. It is a slow process, and it just takes time,
Sure.
and interacting with him in a way that's going to be good boy. Good boy, in a way that's going to be meaningful for him.
Mm-hmm. Intentionally slow,
Absolutely. Awesome.
You make
All
it
right.
look so easy. This is awesome.
Oh,
Thank you for giving him a chance. This is so cool.
My pleasure. He's fun to work with, and I truly believe, like, when he's ready to be adopted out, he's going to make somebody a heck of a horse. He really is.
Cannot wait to see. Cannot wait to see what his future holds.
Yeah, same here. when we work with horses, typically before that horse goes home, you know, of course, myself, the trainers are riding him, but we also incorporate him into our lesson program as well. So that way kids are riding these horses as well, or beginner riders.
Sure.
And it just, you know, gives that horse more exposure to a variety of experiences so that they're more likely to just be a good solid horse for whoever ends up taking him home. So he's gonna do great. I cannot.
Okay, well, when you're ready for a kid level rider that doesn't weigh what a kid weighs, let me know.
Sounds good. We'll have you out here. You can ride Slate.